Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, if you didn't already guess from the title of this video, today I'm talking to you guys about the interview process and how you get hired at Sephora. Ignore my cat. So I worked at Sephora. Okay, let me backtrack. Gosh, it's so hard to begin this video. So I worked at a Sephora inside JCPenney. Not a freestanding Sephora, I was at a JCPenney Sephora. There are differences, however, I did an interview process at both versions of a store, which is why I feel like I can give you guys a good rounded opinion of what it's like to interview to work at Sephora at all. And then I'm going to kind of go into what the job is like, the differences between standalone Sephora versus a JCPenney Sephora, expectations of you, that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to have a whole separate video, which I don't know if I'll film it tonight, depends on how tired I am once I'm done with this. But I am going to be filming a video about why I left Sephora. Just a little bit of background on me. I got my first job when I was 16. I used to work at Cold Stone Creamery when I was in high school as a cake decorator, and then I joined the ice cream line, like actually mixing and doing the ice cream. But I started out as a cake decorator there, and I had that job for just shy of 2 years. I was there about a year and a half. And then I didn't work for the first couple years of college. I studied abroad my third year of college, and then my senior year of college, to make extra cash, I started working at Bath & Body Works as a seasonal employee. After I graduated, I transferred to a Bath & Body Works closer to my parents' house to work there, and then from there, I was there at that location for a year. I think exactly a year. And then I worked at Sephora inside JCPenney for almost 2 years. That was last February was when I left Sephora. My last day was February 10th, 2017. So it's been a few months. I'm a little rusty on all the information, but gladly, if you guys have questions that I don't answer in this video, please ask them down below. You can tweet me, KOBeauty58, or you can ask me on my Instagram, feel free. I'm more than willing to give you guys a hand if people have questions about how to get hired, more specific things. I do have, here on my computer, an entire list of questions that I've compiled both from what people have asked me in the past, what I've seen on forums about how to get hired, just in general, notes about my own process. So yeah, but I just wanted to let you guys know about my retail background, just because it'll make it a little easier to see where I stood in the application process when I was applying at Sephora. This is probably going to be a long video. It's already 5 minutes in, and I haven't even started talking about the interviews yet. So be sure to grab a drink, grab a snack, because we're going to be here a while. I thought about doing this as a live stream, but then I thought, no, let's just make this a regular video. I can always do a Q&A on this, like a follow-up Q&A or something in a couple weeks. I don't know. I feel like these are very popular videos on YouTube, along with the why I left. So maybe I'll do a follow-up Q&A to both videos in one video. I don't know. We'll see. Depends on how many people have questions after this. I'm trying to be as thorough and in-depth as possible. This is going to depend on a few different factors. First off, are you applying to be a holiday hire? If you are, it's going to be a very fast process, and it's going to be done probably between the months of, depending on your store and its volume, between the months of July and September. Most stores like to have their holiday hires trained in store and ready to go on October 1st. That was my store, at least, and I know that that's what the standalone Sephora's had told me as well when I applied to work for them. So in terms of holiday hire, you're looking for applications sometime in the late summer into the early fall time to be hired for the holiday season. So that means the interview process is going to be a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, and they're going to want to get it out of the way fast so that they have their holiday hires and they don't have to worry about it when holiday hires start working on the clock. Now, if you're applying outside of the holiday season, like I did, I applied in the beginning of March, end of February, I just forgot what month that was, of 2015. I was coming off of being a holiday sales lead at Bath & Body Works. I was a temporary sales lead, meaning kind of a manager in place of, so that way a manager didn't have to work the entire day, which could have happened during the holiday season, totally possible. So the idea being that temporary sales lead were given an area to specify in. Mine was operations, so like inventory, replenishment, filling the floor, and then occasionally jumping on register, because I'm always very good on a register. I don't know why, but I've always been very fast, direct, and to the point, and gotten people out of there quick. So when I applied to work at a standalone Sephora, I applied actually to be an operations consultant. So operations consultants are the people who do the shipment unboxings. They're the ones who are filling and cleaning the floor. They usually work the weird hours of like 4 a.m. to 1 or something like that. And they do have an operations manager. Now, I think I was going in to be an operations consultant with the intention of in the future being an operations manager. God, my brain is all over the place. This is so hard to do. Kudos to anyone who's filmed one of these videos. I am hardcore struggling right now. My interview process, so I submitted the application, I think it was the end of February I submitted the application. Around the end of the first week, beginning of the second week of March, I received a phone call asking me to come in and do an interview. They were kind of, I don't want to say desperate, but they were very anxious to get more people in their store. So for me, the interview process was fairly quick. For a couple of different reasons. So first off, I had my main interview. Which actually, I think most stores, from what I've found online, my interview process was definitely not conventional. When I worked at Bath & Body Works, the first thing I did was did a group interview, and then I had a one-on-one interview, and then I was hired. Sephora, it's usually you do, I think, one with a manager of some kind, you do a group one sometimes, and then you have another one with some kind of a district person, or at least that's how it used to work. I'm not sure if that's still the case. Keep in mind, I'm a little outdated here by about 3 years almost on this. And then you get the job or whatever. I only had the interview with the manager. So she brought me in, she interviewed me. I did my makeup, my own makeup. I came in with a full face done, and sat down, did the interview. I had a copy of my resume, my history of what it was like at Bath & Body Works. Luckily, it was the same mall that my Bath & Body Works was in, so I was able to be like, no, I know the mall very well, I know the hours, I know what's expected here, because most of the mall runs on the same time schedule, especially at the holidays. And so, I sat with the manager, talked with her for a while, and she said, I really like you. But here's the thing, we actually already filled the position. However, I'm still interviewing you because I want to pass you on to other stores. So she said, how far do you want to go? Because I think you'd really be a good fit in operations for another store somewhere else. So she knew, looking at my resume, saw the amount of time I'd spent in retail, how familiar I was with the process, all of that, and she thought I'd make a great addition to any store, and she thought my personality was great. So she forwarded my application to one of these Sephoras inside JCPenney because I didn't want to go super far, which meant I was kind of out of range for a lot of other freestanding Sephoras. A standalone is probably what I'm going to refer to it for the rest of this video, a standalone store. So she forwarded mine to a JCPenney Sephora. That JCPenney Sephora, SIJCP, interviewed me. And it turns out they kind of had the same situation. They had just filled their last spot, but if something opened up, they'd let me know. And then one of them said, I actually just learned that another Sephora inside JCPenney is one of their employees just got pregnant. So she's going to be potentially leaving in the future, and she's an operations person. I'm going to forward your resume to that manager and see if she wants to talk to you. So she forwarded the resume. And then the next day, I think I called to say, hi, my name's Kate. I had forwarded my, so-and-so from this location had forwarded my resume to you in consideration for an open position, blah, blah, blah. And then here's what got kind of complicated. So the whole process of my first interview at that standalone Sephora in the middle of March, my interview at the at the Sephora inside JCPenney didn't happen until the beginning of May. Because, like I said, they'd already ended up filling the position, so they just kind of sat on it a little bit. My interview at this Sephora, the second Sephora, happened to be at the end of May. So at this point, we're already hitting round about the 2-month mark. So for me, it was about 3 months before I was started at any Sephora at all, working. But what happened was I had a death in the family that summer, that June, my grandfather passed away from cancer. And so I was not in the state of Illinois for an entire week period. So I had my interview. I think my interview with that Sephora was like 3 days before I found out my grandfather had died, and then we were in Omaha. And while I was in Omaha, I got a phone call from that manager. She was like, I want you to come in for a second interview. I'd love you to meet the district person, some other people on our team, interview with them. And I explained my situation. I'm like, I'm actually out of town for a funeral right now. I won't be back for a few more days. And she said, okay, I'll call you in a few days then. So the last day that I was in Omaha, she called me back and she said, actually, Kate, we're just gonna go ahead and hire you. So I finished packing at my grandfather's house with my mom and came back, and then the Monday after that, I started at Sephora. Easy as that. It's kind of a backwards way of getting hired, just because it was not the best time of year. I think definitely if you're someone who's interested in working at Sephora, at any retail location for that matter, it doesn't sound ideal, but you should try going in as a holiday hire. Going in as a holiday hire makes it much easier for people. They get a chance to work with you for a short amount of time, see what you're capable of, and then from there, decide whether or not to keep you. And a lot of stores, a lot of Sephoras in general, when it came to holiday hires, potentially move them to other stores later. So I'll get more into that in a bit. So that's the main question. So for me, it was 3 months before I physically, from me submitting an application to starting a first day of training, it was about 3 months. Also, in the meantime, I did interview to work at some makeup counters at like Macy's and Nordstrom in between. Sephora does not give benefits. As far as I am aware, JCPenney Sephora did, but only if you were a manager, I believe. And I believe it was only medical. I don't think it was dental or vision or anything like that, but I'm not 100% sure because I never made it that far in the hierarchy of positions. So from my point of view, I never had benefits, and I was never told at the standalone Sephora that I would receive benefits either. Would part-time hours be flexible if I'm a full-time student, full-time college student, if I have another job? Yes and no. If you're a holiday hire, they kind of know the days they want you. If you work 2 retail jobs, it's going to be hard because both stores will want you on a weekend. If you're doing something like waitressing where you have classes during the day, it's a little more flexible then. For me, my store had one girl who was completing her makeup artistry certification while she was working at Sephora, and she was able to do it. She had her class, I think it was twice a week for like 4 hours on like Monday and Thursday or something like that, and she just didn't work those days at all because my store, how they worked, I'll get into my hours later, but usually it was only one person there at that time, and they just made sure it was someone else. It was usually me. But yeah, so most Sephoras will be willing to work with you as long as you're flexible, but they do kind of have an idea of, okay, well, you need to be there for one shipment day. Okay, well, we need someone who's able to work both Saturday and Sunday, or at least Friday and Saturday, or Friday and Sunday. They kind of have an idea. If you're concerned about that, bring it up right away because they want you to be honest in an interview. They don't want you lying and pretending, oh, I have all the free time in the world, and then being like, okay, but I have biology class and a history class and this 4 days a week, so I can really only work Saturdays. And they're like, well, why do we hire you? So at least be smart about it. If you don't think you can commit a minimum of 15 hours a week to a part-time job, you probably shouldn't be applying for it. I'm just gonna throw that out there in general. As someone who was a manager at one store, or partial manager at one store, and who spent a lot of time working with holiday hires at Sephora in general, trust me, you just be honest. Please be honest. They would rather you tell the truth and they end up not needing you then, but maybe in the future, as opposed to you lie and then they have to fire you. Trust me, it's better on both ends. It is 18. They make no exceptions. For me, I live in Illinois. The state of Illinois does not allow minors to work past 10 p.m. Most stores tended to pick people who are 18 and over. Some stores made exceptions, but for the most part, 18. I have yet to hear of a Sephora that will hire anyone under 18. I will admit, hold on, I do have an exception. If you are someone who gets hired as a holiday hire and you are 17, but your birthday falls during the holiday season, they will probably take you. But that's like a very specific exception. There was one girl who her birthday was like December 5th or something like that, and they hired her because they're like, okay, in 2 months you'll be 18 anyway, so come December 5th or whatever her birthday was, bam, she was working the late hours with the rest of us. No, you don't. I mean, I think it's beneficial if you at least know how to put on your own makeup, because obviously you don't go into a Sephora interview wearing no makeup. Please don't do that. They will not hire you. They want to see what you're capable of doing on yourself so that they kind of have an idea of what they're working with. So in theory, going into a Sephora interview, you should have makeup at least a minimum of what I've done now. I'll get more into the details of what you're required to wear when you're at Sephora, which will help a little bit with this. You know what, screw it, I'll go into it now. So when you work at Sephora, at least this was the rule of my Sephora, and it actually was enforced. I hear some Sephoras don't really enforce it, but it was enforced at my store, so I'm going to share it with you now. You need to have the following things on your face anytime you go into work at Sephora. Ready? Here we go. Foundation, concealer, in theory, whatever primer you use, but we'll just get with what's visible. So foundation, concealer. Your brows should be neat and tidy or done fashionably or whatever the heck. You must have done something to your brows, unless you magically have gorgeous, thick, full brows and you don't have to do anything with them. Then probably just brush them into place and glue them in place. You need to have at least 3 eyeshadows or 2 eyeshadows and liner that is visible with your eyes open. Fourth, this is where it kind of gets into ground. You need to have some kind of lip color, whether it's a lip liner and gloss, lipstick, liquid lipstick, whatever it may be, you need something on your lips. When it comes to your face and your cheek, in theory, what I have on now is perfect because I have everything on right now. I have contour, blush, bronzer, and highlight. In a perfect world, you would wear all of those. My store, we were able to get away with if you would contour and then put blush and highlight, or you would bronze and contour and then highlight. Like, you can get away with 3 of the 4, but you definitely need a highlight and you definitely need some color on your cheeks, and you should be contouring unless, you know, you're not going for that kind of look. Today I did a very subtle contour, for example. So you do need to have all those things on your face when you're working at Sephora. False lashes are not required. That's up to you. But I did wear false lashes at Sephora, but usually only the days where I was wearing very intense liner and I needed lashes to balance it out. So that's kind of, so in terms of my makeup background, when I started working at Sephora, I knew how to put on my own makeup. My makeup background actually came from doing theater. I was a theater major in college. I've been doing theater since I was 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old, at like day camp or something like that. I have been doing makeup for the stage for at least, at the time when I started working at Sephora, at least about 5 years. At least. Granted, I wasn't like full hardcore special effects makeup level, but I definitely had, you know, I knew my way around getting makeup on other people to help them with their makeup, especially boys. Boys in the theater struggle with their makeup occasionally, so I kind of had a background doing that, and they were just kind of like, okay, that's great. We see that you've had a little bit of experience. Obviously, we'll hone your skills. Actually, Sephora almost prefers that you not have any makeup experience in a weird way. At least not like as a formally certified makeup artist. I'm not wording this right. Just because when it comes to being taught as a makeup artist, you're taught one way of doing makeup or whatever it is, and you've got your own kind of style. Sephora is very specific in how they want you doing makeup on clients, so that's kind of why they like having a fresh mold to work with. So no, you don't need to know how to do makeup, but you should at least know how to do yours well enough that they can have confidence in teaching you. Make sense? I think that makes sense. So if you're 18 years old, you have a passion for makeup, and you're eager to learn, and you're a nice person, I say that in a general term, you're not a raging, horrible person in any way, shape, or form, you will probably fare very well. It'll just depend on who you're up against. If you know how to sell yourself in an interview, express your eagerness or your eagerness to learn, they're going to be more open to hiring you. Now, in general, you just have to be eager to learn, show that you're easy to work with, that you can take a direction well. You know, I mean, it's not like you have to have a college degree, you have to have a makeup artistry background. No. Depending on what area of Sephora you want to work in, that might vary, but I'll get into that a little bit later. How many hours are typical for part-time versus full-time? Now, this is where it differed between JCPenney Sephora and standalone Sephora. At a JCPenney Sephora, you were considered full-time at 35 hours a week. maybe it was 39. I don't remember right now. Maybe it was 39. 39 hours a week sounds right for some reason. Nope, 35. 35 hours a week. So for me, especially during the holiday season, they capped me at 30. They tried not to make me do any more than 30 hours a week. If I did, they would like cut a shift later that week short to compensate. But they didn't want to go over. My store was very strict. They could only have so many hours. They only had so much of a budget, and they were really upset about it because they wanted to give us more hours, but they just couldn't. So for me, I'd say during the holiday season, I was working 30 to 33 hours a week. During the off season, probably around 20, if I was lucky. Sometimes it was 14, sometimes it was 26. It depended on the week, if other people had vacation or time off or whatever, it depended. So if you don't know what commission is a base of sales where if you sell $100, you're gonna get 10% commission or whatever it is that your store base is. So you're getting $10 for every 100 that you get someone to purchase. That's not coming out in the right order, is it? I have never until now at my current company, but my position is commission based at my current company. I have never personally had to work with a commission sales base. Obviously the better the store does, the more hours you get to get, the more people that'll get hired, so you're not stretched as thin, more gratis in some cases. It depends on your store and the situation of your store. This is gonna depend on your store. This is gonna depend on your state, your store, how many people they can hire, blah, blah, blah. So, it also depends on your level of education, your retail experience. When you apply for a job at a company, anywhere, they do factor in your education background, your knowledge going into the position, if you already have prior knowledge, things like that do factor in. But most states, and the state of Illinois is this way, when I was first hired at JCPenney Sephora, I started a couple of cents above the minimum wage. Illinois' minimum wage is was at the time, $9.25 an hour. I started at, I believe, $9.65, $9.75 an hour, somewhere in there, because I had previous background in retail. So by the time I was finished there, I was getting about $10.50 an hour. So it shows you in about 2 years, I went up about 50 cents. So this isn't necessarily asking how many hours you're getting. It means how many hours are your shifts. So for me at my store was open 7 days a week, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Friday, it was 10 to 10. Might have been 10 to 9, but it was 10 to 10 for the holidays for sure. Saturday was 10 to 9, and Sunday was 11 to 6. Again, it varies by store and location, if you're in a mall, if you're in a standalone, whatever the heck. My JCPenney stood on its own, so it wasn't part of a mall or anything, so it didn't have to adhere to mall hours. Usually how my store worked was there was always a manager or senior staff member, so that meant our beauty manager. So there was the manager, there was the person who was in charge of the color world, so the beauty person, I'm blanking on the title right now, and then the operations, ops. And usually one of them was always there for the whole day. So they were there from like, 9:30 to 4, 5, something like that. Like a regular, what looks like a regular 9 to 5 shift. And those were usually the people who worked full time. And then you had the part-time people, such as myself, who would come in and work like 4 to 9, 4 to 8, something like that. But there were times, multiple times where I was alone in the store for a long time because I'd be paired with like the store manager who had a schedule to finish and meeting notes to have, or a phone conference or something. So, and because of my background, they felt comfortable leaving me alone on the floor because they knew if it was really something that it got out of control and I couldn't handle, that I was capable of calling either someone from JCPenney to come and ring people at the register, or to get her and be like, okay, I really can't balance. There's 20 people in here and I can't keep track of everything. Can you please come back? But I mean, I easily handled stores full of 10 to 15 people on my own. No big deal. Yes, Sephora, I don't necessarily know if the standalones enforce it in the holiday hires as much. My location, we were required to wear the Star Trek uniform. And to be honest, the Star Trek uniform is a little bit more comfortable than the other option. The other option, I think JCPenney, Sephora, you only were allowed to have it if you were a manager. I could be wrong about that, but I never saw anyone other than an actual manager wearing it. The standard uniform is the black with the red. You've all seen it. So many people asking me about Star Trek costumes. But yes, you do have to wear it. Until you get your uniform, you're expected to wear all black. So a nice pair of black slacks, a nice black top, black shoes, until you get a uniform. Managers were allowed to wear this pant blouse combination. But again, I think I only saw one of my 3 managers ever wear it. And she only wore it because her tunic got spilled on or something crazy like that. I did not. I never had to apply makeup on anyone when I was applying for Sephora. I did for the makeup counters, they did request it, but Sephora did not. So for both those questions, the answer is yes. Sephora has a program where when you are educated and when new products come out, you receive what they call gratis, meaning free things. Sephora gave us gratis once a month, and it coincided with our beauty education. We were not educated the months of November and December due to the high holiday volumes in the stores, so we were educated for 10 out of 12 months of the year. What you got in gratis depended on brands and what Sephora felt was necessary to expand your knowledge. The best gratis I ever had was my first one ever because my store was so small. So what happened is Sephora would send 20 eyeliners and they were to be divvied up evenly amongst the members of the store. I worked in a cast of 6 people, usually 5, most of the time we had 6, so we would get 4 of the eyeliners, stuff like that. So it wasn't necessarily, occasionally we did just straight up, they'd be like, okay, what's your foundation shade in Makeup Forever Ultra HD? Voila, here's R2 230, whatever the heck your shade is. So sometimes they tried to try and pair you with things that matched you. I think a lot of the times, like the brow products, never matched me, so my sister got a lot of brow pencils. And obviously the primers weren't necessarily geared towards your skin type. Same for the skincare, it wasn't necessarily geared towards my my normal skin with dry patches. So I mean, it depends on your store, and I know it's standalone, it depends on your position. And it depends on, I think that they give you bonuses, like bonus gratis for sales. My store did have competitions where you would get free things, like if you sold the most at the NARS event, you might get to pick out a lipstick or something like that. So, I mean, we did get extra gratis, but for the most part, you were kind of set in what you got when you had your education once a month. As for discount, this is how discounts work at Sephora. If you work at a standalone Sephora, you get, I believe it's 40% off the Sephora brand, the Sephora collection brand, which, by the way, is a very, very nice brand. It was very underrated and not a lot of people buy it. You should, it's very nice. And then you get, I believe it's 20% off the rest of the store. Sephora, your discount at a standalone Sephora does not apply in a JCPenney Sephora and vice versa. You can't use your JCPenney discount inside a standalone Sephora. So usually when I worked at Sephora, I saved for the fall and the spring hauls, I would save that 20% off coupon for when I wanted to buy something at the standalone or online that was not carried in a JCPenney Sephora. In terms of Sephora inside JCPenney, you had a couple different ways of getting the discount. So the standard discount was 20%. If you paid with a Sephora inside JCPenney gift card or a JCPenney credit card, you were given 25% off. I have a JCPenney credit card. I got one specifically so I could get the full 25% because it got a little annoying to have to put money on a gift card and then buy the thing. You had to have like 4 transactions and blah, 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 and all that stuff. So I said, screw it. I'll just get the credit card and pay it off immediately. So the thing is though, your Sephora discount applies the exact same way to JCPenney when you work in a JCPenney Sephora. So not only did my discount work on makeup, it worked on shoes, it worked on bedding, it worked on kitchen appliances. So that's kind of the trade-off. So Sephora may give you the better discount on their collection when you work at a standalone, but you can't get the 20% off of that really cute dress that you saw in the junior section. It's kind of like a trade-off in that way, because Sephora inside JCPenney is actually a separate entity from the standalone Sephoras. Big major difference that I noticed, besides kind of the discount thing and how it works, is just the entire atmosphere. From what I heard, I had friends who worked at standalones, so some of this came from them. I don't know how much of it is actually true, to be fair. I'm not going to call them out or say their names because I don't want them, because some of them still work there and I don't want them to get in trouble for it or anything. Sephora inside JCPenney, you are trained to work the entire store. My location only had 6 people, 8 at the holidays. We had to know how to cashier, how to sell fragrance, how to sell skincare, how to apply makeup, and how to sell makeup. We couldn't afford to specialize in areas. At a standalone Sephora, you usually work in one world. You work in fragrance, you work in skincare, you're a cashier, you're a makeover artist. It's something like that. You don't usually bounce between all of them, from my understanding and from their understanding, from what I've heard from my friends. SIJCP, you learn it all. Standalone, you do not. A lot of people I know start out at SIJCP so that they had an idea of all the worlds, kind of knew where their strength was, so that when a position opened at a freestanding, they could apply. Now, you can't transfer in between stores. You have to physically reapply. However, if you wanted to move up in a position in Sephora inside JCPenney or at Sephora, you could easily move within the stores and move up, but you wouldn't be able to interchange between freestanding and JCPenney. Does that make sense at all? I feel like it makes sense in my head, but I'm not sure I'm getting it all out right. Sorry guys, I just realized that this eye is completely bloodshot for some reason. I think I've got fur in my eye. So when you work at Sephora once a month, at least for us, it was once a month. I think freestandings, I think sometimes it's twice. We have someone come in, we have someone called our beauty educator. And for us, that was this wonderful girl named Ashley. She was fantastic. She was loads of fun. She was great. I don't know if Ashley will ever see this, but Ashley was amazing and gave me lots of advice and tips on how to move up in Sephora. And I was supposed to be potentially moving up in Sephora when I decided to leave and get a real world job outside of retail. So they're someone who they are someone who is trained by Sephora specifically for the purpose of educating the Sephora employees. They go to all these conferences, they meet brand representatives, they meet sometimes the brand owners even. I think my girl said that she met Kat Von D once. They go to lectures, they learn all about this stuff so that they live, breathe everything Sephora, so that way they can educate us thoroughly without there being any question about how to use something properly or any question that we can ask that they can't answer. And they come in once a month. They spend about 3 to 4 hours teaching you about the new products. They kind of give little demos. If it was a heavy skincare month, so like January when you get double the points on skincare at Sephora, well, that month's education is all about the skincare. It is all about, okay, so these are the cool trending masks. Multi-masking is a thing now because that was big when I was at Sephora. So that's why it's not necessarily important that you know everything when you start. They do have people who come in and educate you. I know standalone Sephora's outsource you to other stores to learn occasionally. I don't know how fully in-depth that works, but I know that that is something that is done. This is hands down one of the most popular questions I am ever asked or people ask me about. I started Bath & Body Works as a holiday hire. Basically, I proved myself to be very flexible in my hours, able to kind of cover shifts at a moment's notice, show that I was willing to help out whenever I could. Trying to work as hard as you can. As a holiday hire at JCPenney Sephora, you are usually only cashiering because they don't have time to educate you on everything. If you show promise or a natural aptitude for something, yes, they'll allow you to do like mini makeovers, like showing someone how to match their foundation, because that's pretty simple to learn. Or showing someone how to pick a perfect primer for their skin type, something that's easy and quick to pick up. And you can always, as a seasonal person, if you've ever had downtime, and there's like no one in the store, not that that really happens all that much, but if it does happen for you, if you've got a smaller store, location, whatever, it happened at mine all the time because we were a tiny, tiny store. Ask someone who is a regular member of the cast to teach you something. ask their opinion on, you know, I really want to stay. What should I do to show I really want to stay? Besides, I mean, if you're a holiday hire and you really, really want to stay beyond the holiday season, tell your manager that before the holiday season's over. Whether or not they can keep you is dependent on the store. My store could only keep one holiday hire one of the years because we were just too small. We didn't have the space on staff. So for us, it wasn't the best, but we did have our holiday hires switch to other stores. So even if we couldn't keep you, the Centerville store might keep you or something. I don't know. There's not actually a Centerville near me. I don't know if there is. I'm just making up a store name. Main Street store can take you or something like that. And we actually at one point had a girl from another store who was a holiday hire come and join us for a couple months before a full-time position opened up back at her store. So she got a chance to train with us, see how our store worked before going back to hers. So Sephora is very open to trying to find you a position somewhere if you really do want to stay. Obviously, that can't happen all the time. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee that it will, but it is a possibility. If you don't want to be a seasonal hire, I mean, here's the thing. Holiday hires are kind of great in the fact that you get the inside scoop into everything before starting as a full-time person. However, at my store, holiday hires didn't get gratis. You didn't get to go to education and you didn't get gratis. You do get the discount, but you didn't get the gratis. And usually you weren't competing in the events to get you more free products. So it's kind of up to you. I happen to find a good time. The Sephora JCPenney's in my area tended to do their changeovers post-holiday season kind of around right before spring break, which is why when I was applying everyone had already stacked up and filled everything up. All the middle tier part-time people had been bumped to full-time or manager positions. Those people have been bumped up to district. And then you had the holiday hires who were already there that got bumped up into the part-time positions that were permanent. And then they kind of had those leftover spots that they tried to fill if they could. So in a way, it's kind of better, I think, in general in retail. It's going to be a little bit easier to get in during the holiday season because you can make yourself stand out and they're going to have more spots available. Trying to apply outside of a holiday season is going to be a little bit harder, one, because they're not necessarily going to be hiring as often, and two, you're going to stand to be competing against the people from the other stores who were holiday hires, who their store held on to them as long as they could until a position opened somewhere else. And they're going to be preferential just because they have the experience. They know what to expect being in a Sephora already. So my recommendation is do go in as a holiday hire. I mean, I think one of the reasons why they took me, the other girl I was hired with at the same time was already a JCPenney employee and she was switched over to Sephora. So she already knew how to run the registers, all that jazz. I came from a retail background where I just had to be educated on Sephora products. So that's why we were kind of considered necessary, wanted, I don't know how to phrase it, outside of a holiday hire season. So you may not like the idea of it, but you know what? Holiday season is only 3 to 4 months. Suck it up. If you can't last holiday season, even as a holiday hire, you're not going to make it as a part-time, full-time employee with Sephora because the holidays are tried and true the best way to find out who can handle working in retail and who can't. First off, wear all black. Just wear all black with accents of red and white. If you come in anything else, I wore blue because I know I look well in blue, and even the girl at Sephora was like, I really like your outfit, but I wish you'd worn all black. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize I had to wear all black. Because at the time, there were no internet forums to really thoroughly explain, you should have a full face of makeup and a glitter cut crease and a bright bold lip, and you need to be in all black. It doesn't necessarily have to be like business casual, but it should look put together. So I had on like a blue summer dress with a cute pair of like cork wedges or something like that. And they thought my outfit was very, very cute. My makeup was very well done, but they were like, oh, you didn't wear black. I wish you'd worn black. I was like, I hate wearing black actually because I'm so pale. I feel like it makes me look gothic. I would also, like I said at the beginning, be honest. Don't lie about your experience. Don't try to pull the wool over their eyes or whatever. Don't do that. Be honest. Tell them what you want from the job. Ask the questions you want to ask. Don't be afraid to ask things. I mean, they would rather you ask the questions you have up front than be shady about it later. It doesn't matter who walks through the door of Sephora. It's your job to make them feel beautiful and to show them that they can be the best person they can be. That is the ultimate goal of Sephora. I mean, yes, it's about sales, but if a customer's gonna walk out of there, you want them to remember the experience that they had with you and how you help them feel beautiful, because that's what's going to help them come back. So if you can show that you can make a connection with someone like that, that's the most important thing you can do. Okay guys, so that kind of wraps everything up. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this kind of part 1 general how I was hired, what it's like to work at Sephora. Like I said, if you have additional questions that I didn't answer anywhere in this video, please tell me down below and I will save them for that Q&A post video chat. And like I said, I'm going to be filming a part 2 about why I ended up leaving Sephora and kind of the reasons that led me to doing that. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to tune in to the next video up because it will be that part 2. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Bye.